Jason won that match against Shane, and Shane's the king, and he went up and stood in his chair. You don't stand in the king's chair.
I got to stop eating here, though. We're going to be on the air.
Well, I always love it when I start the recording and Rob says something really funny, because then I can just keep it there, and it makes me happy. Here we are, and it's been a while, because, full disclosure, I got COVID, and I have been getting my absolute butt kicked for about the last week and a half, or I guess week at this point, and I am not in a position to want to do a podcast, but here we are anyways. What's up, fellas?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm glad that we're doing this by phone then. I'm sorry to hear that, Nate. Seriously, that's you've kind of told me it wasn't much fun to go through. It wasn't just a mild fever, huh?
No, mine was not a mild fever. It was, I was not hospitalized. I was never really close to being hospitalized. But I was to the point for about a week there. Well, I still kind of am. I'm getting slightly better now, but I was not even functional for a good 5-day stretch where I struggled to get out of bed. And to this day, I mean, if I climbed some stairs yesterday and I got to the top of it and I thought I was going to pass out. This is nothing to mess with. And,
that happens to me every day. I walk upstairs from the basement and I feel like I'm going to pass out.
Rob, you feel like that after you've hit
No,
3
that's
billion
too bad,
balls.
Nate. But that's a real deal, you know, and it affects everybody different.
Yeah, my wife ended up getting it too, and she had a pretty mild case. She was back. She actually she started getting symptoms on Friday, and she was back to work on Monday.
Now, what did she test? You got tested, right?
Yeah.
She did.
We both did, yeah.
Yeah, she positive for her?
Yeah, we both were. So, fun stuff, huh?
But she's not as sick as you were.
No, I said.
She's lived a much cleaner life, that's obvious.
Clearly, yeah. Must be because of all the gin I have in my body. COVID and gin are like best friends. It's got to be it, right?
Yeah.
So
not gin and tonic, it's gin and COVID.
Well,
yeah, I'm going to rename my bar that's for sale, COVID Corners.
You still own that bar? All right, anyways, we're not going to get into that.
I know. I can't stand it.
It's been a little while.
You can't sell a bar in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, it's
when
not
the bars
easy.
are closed.
It's not easy.
Or basically. They're not closed here, but...
All right, well, let's get going. It's been a little while. We haven't done one since the Mosconi Cup. And we're going to be talking about that today. But before, let's get all the stuff in the beginning out of the way. We actually have polos for sale now. Massey Apparel is doing them for us, and they are going to be done professionally by Sean over there at Massey. I have mine. If you want to see what it looks like, go and check out the social media, or you could reach out to us on the website, and we can get it emailed, a picture of it over to you. It is absolutely beautiful. I need to get the numbers on that still, but if you are interested in a Cue It Up polo, you can get yourself one. Just reach out to us and let us know. Other than that...
Can you curve the ball better when you put a shirt on?
No. Shut up, Rob.
No.
All right, let's. That's all we have for the beginning. Rob, why don't you give us your shout out?
I'm going to go back to another one because I every day that I am not in pain. If you've ever been in pain in your life for an extended period of time, serious pain, that just doesn't go up or down. It's just a constant thing, day in, day out, can't sleep. There's a doctor, an MD, over in Minnetonka, Minnesota, who specializes in sports pain medicine. And he has worked with pool players before. I'm not the first one he's dealt with and cured. I am not just feeling better, I'm cured. The tissue surrounding my nerve problems in my neck and back is just like I'm 20 years ago. It's like I'm 50 instead of 70. That's the way it feels every day. And when I go to bed at night and I'm not in pain, I thank him for that, for the therapy that he does. It's most doctors of your, when you go to get a checkup every year, however long you do it, might not be every year, but your regular doctor, you go see them, ask them about proliferation therapy. My guess is they've never heard of it. I've gone through some things in the last 6 months, seen a lot of different doctors. Not one I've talked to has heard about proliferation therapy. And one physical therapist had heard about it out of all those I had talked to, which is 4 or 5. And I just can't recommend this at a high enough level. And this is for any kind of chronic pain. It can be shoulder, neck, hip, arm, wrist, knee, ankle, and anywhere in your body where you've had chronic pain, where something, it just doesn't seem like it's going away. It's always there. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's a little better. This process gets your own body to actually build new connective tissue, which is what holds us together. It's our ligaments, tendons, muscle tissue, everything that supports our bony tissue, and nerves, because the nerves run along the bone. So that's part of the process. And his name is Dr. Mark Whedon, and I just have to shout out to him again. I thank him every single day that I wake up, every night when I go to sleep. And it's not just me thinking this process was going to work, and so my mind helped me heal. That's not it. This works. There's different types that you can go through, and there's some different doctors over there in the cities that are fooling around with this a little bit. Now, Mark has been doing this since the beginning of his medical practice. So he's got, I'm going to say around 30 years experience with proliferation therapy. So he's an expert at it. So there's my shout out, Mark. Keep the good work up, and I just hope there's got to be somebody out there in chronic pain. There's got to be. Yeah. And whether you think it's a nerve damage issue or a tissue issue, it doesn't matter. Once the tissue is healed, the nerve will heal. So there you go.
We actually had this from the beginning. We, if you've been around the podcast for a long time, you've been around the neck pain for Rob, so you've actually got to see him get from pain to this point, which is kind of fun.
And I think that all of our listeners deal with a certain amount of chronic pain. I'm just taking that's something Nate would say about the podcast. Anyway, I'll shout out to, speaking of podcast listeners, I want to shout out to Ken Anthony. This is a listener that he has a job where he can, listen to different things as he works, and so he catches all of our podcasts. And he is a passionate, devoted pool player who I've kind of talked about this before. I've really enjoyed getting to talk to a few people that are on these kind of solitary journeys where they put in just a ton of hours on their own. They're really, really working hard on their game, very, very determined, very committed, and just absorbing information, sponging things up, laser focused on a target, and making it happen. And so anyway, he asked some good listener questions that I passed on to you, Nate. And anyway, I really enjoy that. So thank you. The podcast couldn't exist without people that both listened, appreciated, and connected, and asked questions and participated. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing how his game evolves.
Yeah. All right, and my shout out is going to be simple. It's going to be easy. I'm going to shout out to Chris Robinson. he took a lot of flack going into the Mosconi Cup, which we're going to talk about. Obviously, it's crazy late to do that, but, what can you do? The dude just showed up, and, he didn't play his best game. He didn't play the best of anybody in Mosconi Cup history, but he probably played better than anybody else on Team USA, and that's something. So it was a pretty impressive showing, and I think he's not cemented his place in the Mosconi Cup future, but I think if he gets picked again, no one's gonna question it. No one's gonna say anything boo about it. So it's an awesome showing. Chris deserves it. I love it. Great to see, and congratulations, Chris.
Yeah, right. I'll second that.
Yeah,
I feel pretty similar about that.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump in actually to the podcast itself. I don't know if we're supposed to be still doing this ad, but I think it's a lot of fun. And from what I've heard, everybody laughs their entire time we do this. So here we are, Manscaped ad. What was that?
That was a lawnmower, you idiot.
Oh, it sounded like a broken chainsaw. Rob, you officially have your lawnmower 3.0.
Anyhow, yes. But what I want to say, my wife came home the other day. I told her all about the lawnmower 3.0. And, of course, she looked at me with her eyes crossed. She came home. She goes, did a little shopping the other day, came home, and said, I went to Target. You know what I saw? Well, I have no idea, honey. She said, I saw the Manscaped there. Said Manscaped, they're right on the shelf, right out in the open, and it was a picture of a man's face. And he was trimming his beard. And I went, yeah. Okay. So, I don't know what her point was, that, you can use this to fix yourself all over wherever you have hair. Whatever you got hair, some people got hair all over the place. So, escape yourself. That's what it is. It's not an escape. It's like the moonscape, or it's the bodyscape. It's the manscape. It's perfect. Rev up that lawnmower 3.0. Yeah, there. Now have at it, baby. I love it.
All right, Demetrius, you've had an opportunity. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go with Rob, and so I'm going to stick with the. Let's just stick with the beard and mustache for now. We'll just talk about that. We'll just say that this thing's amazing because I would say this. Having for anybody, I want you guys to remember what it was like when you first tried a jump cue. Up until then, you just were kind of playing with a house cue. You're maybe had your own two-piece cue for the first time, and you could jump a little bit. And then somebody lets you try a jump cue, and you're like, man, this thing goes over the ball like it's not even there. That is the difference, where it's like totally. This is true. It's small. It's convenient. It's very, very. It's just everything is like really focused. It just does a better. It just does a better job than anything I've seen. And the difference would be compare, what it would be like to not clear a ball and give a ball in hand. Except instead of giving a ball in hand, if you don't have the right tool, you're like sawing off your nose. It's like you don't want to saw off your nose, and so that's not acceptable. We need to get over the ball here. We need to not give a ball in hand. So I'm of the opinion you need the right tool, and the 3.0 will clear. It'll get the job done.
Was that pun intended?
That was a good one. So how many jump cues have you had, Nate? Did you ever have a cue called the frog?
I actually did. That was my first ever playing cue. Because it was
green.
Yeah,
it was called the frog, green with a black butt.
I had a black one with a green.
Robin Dobson's the frog?
Yeah, I had a black one with a green grip. But
I
played pool with that for like
a
the first.
tool like the Manscaped. That would be like the first one you've ever tried?
Well, yeah.
Because this is the first one I've ever tried.
They're the best.
So it's got to be the best one I've ever tried.
Yeah, well, talking points, fun time. Manscaped is now launched in the UK, so all of my UK fans or listeners, can get it as well. Chris Alexander, I gave you a shout out last time. You laughed at me when I did that. I'll do it again. Chris, you could get yourself this if you really wanted to. The Manscaped has...
Yeah.
What?
What's in, though, too? It's a 4-day growth, 3-day growth.
Yeah, exactly.
The women come out of the woodwork.
Rob's had to repair his windows 3 times from women, running
themselves
into it.
They're peeping in all over. They just want to watch me do it.
Yeah, of course. Weird. The Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball trimming hair ever created and just released its new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. This third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. When I tell you it's premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave. Rob, you can set the mood. You can throw some rose petals down. You can you can set up some sweet slow jazz, and you can just shave for 90 minutes at a time.
Where I noticed it for me the most, I have to take garden shears to trim my eyebrows. That's how old I am. And this thing, it's like one pass, boom, on one side, one pass on the other, and I am slicked right up. My eyebrows are perfect.
Perfect. And its waterproof technology allows you to groom in the shower. One of the coolest features is the LED lights, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming. We've also upgraded our 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. And let's not forget about the charging stand. Show your mower off loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. If you're listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to tush clean. Make your testes their besties. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code QITUP at manscaped.com. That is 20% off plus free shipping with the code QITUP at manscaped.com. I am always polite. All right, here we are. Let's talk about the Mosconi Cup because we have not had a discussion as a group about it yet. So, big takeaways. Who wants to go first?
Rob, take it away.
I'll come back and say some more later, but I loved it. I did not think U.S. played that bad. Honestly, there was a lot of hill games. A lot of these were races to one and were decided by one shot during the match. The short race thing does that. I love that format. The 9-ball instead of 10-ball, I love that. I personally am confused by the colors of the balls, and I have a hard time adjusting, and get a little mixed up at which ball they're playing position on because of the color. But that's because I'm old.
Pink 4,
no, I thought it was just it really was more competitive than the score lets you know. It was 3-2 the first day is kind of how it was competitive the whole tournament, but the score wasn't like that because of these hill games that got won.
Yeah, there was 3 hills on day 2. Which
how many hill matches?
There was 3 of them just on day 2, which Europe obviously won all 3 because they finished that day 5-0.
Right. Yeah, and so
I thought it was 4-1. They didn't the U.S. win? Didn't Shane win his last?
No.
Oh, 3-2. Yeah. When you said 5-0.
Yeah.
What were you referring to when you said 5-0?
That was second day.
Okay. Second day. Yeah. Because the first day we won the all team, and then Shane won at the end, right?
Yeah, I was saying that Rob had already said it was 3-2, and I said the second day had 3 hill
The matches. Second day, gotcha, had 3 hills on our way to a 5-0 blank. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I really liked the amount of mistakes that were made on the first day by both teams. And the reason I like that is because when I watch things like this, I put myself in a position of an average pool player, 500, middle 500, less, or whatever in there, and I see what happened to these guys. And it happened to every single player. Not one player played on that brand new slippery cloth to their ability. And every single one of them started to let the conditions of the cloth play them to some degree. Some players less. Chris Robinson was the one that had less of an effect on than some of the other players. But and you could see the jumping up on balls and missing. You could see the little bit of skidding going on with the balls. You could see balls not responding off the rails the way that these best players in the world are used to. And all of a sudden, they're not stroking it quite the same. Allison Fisher, play-by-play, did mention that a couple times, like, whoa, he short-stroked that one, or oh, he short-stroked that one. Well, there was a reason for that. And the reason was that cloth, the brand-new cloth. Yeah. And, of course, you didn't see that as much the second day or a third day. How many tables were run the first day? I mean, how many racks were run?
There were not many of them.
There were 5 games played, and I maybe saw 2 the whole 5 games.
Yeah,
so
I don't know how many, but
that tells you the story there, and then noticing how the cloth affected the players' strokes and the way they played and the misses of their position. Some of their position plays was just terrible, I thought. Yeah. For that level of play.
I think that could be an interesting thing, because since they probably haven't played on new cloth, any of them, for months. I mean, normally throughout the course of a year, you'll have, the Derby City Classic will have brand new cloth, the Whirlpool Masters, the U.S. Open, all these different events are going to have brand new cloth. So you kind of, like, every 2 or 3 months, you kind of get a culture shock, like, hey, brand new cloth. Wow, that's what that plays like. They haven't had that since, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure the Diamond Las Vegas Open does have brand new cloth. It probably has been since then, since all of these players have actually played on brand new cloth.
Yeah, and I think the thing was, it really seemed like it slid and rolled a long way. I think they were talking about how far it rolled, and because new cloth, new cloth has a certain set of behaviors that I think these guys remember how new cloth plays. They might be a little rusty, like Nate says, but I think it wasn't just new cloth. I think it was the length that the balls rolled. That was definitely, it was definitely something. But now, okay, I'll jump in, Rob, and I'll tell you that, I'm not so sure, like, when we talk about how it's closer than the score looks, because of the number of hills that we lost. And it's really easy to do this and say, well, if that had gotten one roll, or if we just, if that guy hadn't hooked us when he missed, or if that ball had fallen instead of missed it, or, whatever. It's like we could play that game, but in the end, I forget, and I was trying to find it, but somebody did like the total game score. Right. And the total game score, I think, was something around like 65 to 45. I think there was almost a 20-game difference between Europe and USA. Now, I've got this statistic here, is the number of break-and runs through the Mosconi Cup. Yep. Team USA ran out 10 racks for the break out of 52 breaks for 19% break-and run. Team Europe ran out 20 racks for the break out of 58 for a 34% break and run. So 19% to 34%. That Europe ran 20 racks for the break to US is 10. So that's a huge difference right there, just out of the chute. And then, and then we can talk about losing hills, but that means that they outlegged us, they outbroke us, and they outshot us. And it's like, and then we can make a small case that, well, maybe, the deficit wasn't as big until they got the lead, and then they got the momentum, and then it puts the pressure and turns into a runaway. But, in the end, I mean, I just think that it doesn't help our team to act like that was close, because then we're not going to take the right reaction as far as preparation for the future. That's my opinion. Yeah,
no, that's an accurate opinion. And for sure that's all true. It's not just the fact that there was a few yo-yo games. No, they outplayed us, and you could see that. Yeah. They just pocketed balls better.
Yeah, let me jump in, Rob, because I think the true correct interpretation, if I can say that, is probably somewhere in between where you guys are at. Like, it wasn't a whitewash. Like, it wasn't a complete beatdown. We've seen 11-3s where the team that loses gets to like 3 in a match, and that's like a small victory for them. And we've seen, really, really close matches where, the score is a little bit lopsided, but every single match was competitive. And this wasn't exactly that either. It was kind of somewhere in between there. But I think it was shaded a little bit more towards the beatdown side than anything. The statistic you were looking for, Demetrius, it was 65 total wins for Europe, and it was 45 for the USA. But I think a better way of actually looking at it is Team Europe actually pocketed 20% more balls than the U.S.
Yeah.
They pocketed 544 balls, and the U.S. made 410. Now,
50% more wins, but only 10% more balls.
Well, 20% more balls pocketed. That's a lot of balls. I mean, you're basically you're making on average 2 more balls per rack than the U.S., which means you're getting to the table and you're not giving it up without a fight. I mean, you're actually making balls at the table. And yes, that doesn't really mean anything if you miss the 7, but what we find out is they're not missing the 7 ball, right?
Well, with that being straight pool, losing 180.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that's quite a big margin, right? I think that I definitely agree with Demetrius when he said saying that this is as close as it could, or maybe that making this seem as close as it was is probably not good for the U.S. This was not. It's not like they had 3 missed rolls and they would have won this event. I mean, they got their butts kicked. I think that's where we need to start this from personally, as far as like talking about what happened and how it can quote unquote be fixed for the future. They got their butts kicked. They looked ill prepared. They did not show up and do the small things like winning lags. In fact, we weren't even really close on a lot of lags. I think if you really looked at our lags, we usually got beat by a half a diamond or a full diamond. It wasn't close at all. So I think that's probably where the discussion would start for me, is why did this actually happen? And maybe we want to take it from there. Demetrius, would you like to talk about that one?
Well, I mean, listen, and this is one of those things where it's like, it truly is, with all due respect. I mean, the fact is that I can't be critical of these U.S. players because, Shane, I mean, one of the greatest pool players I've ever seen in my lifetime. And you've got Sky and Billy, who I think have done a great job going out, traveling around, playing in big tournaments and having a moderate amount of success at the highest level of pool, which is so hard. Oh my gosh, the level of pool is so hard. And then Chris, we can talk. We had good representation across the board. I mean, everyone's playing hard, everyone's trying hard, everyone's a great player. Chloe Dools does so much. I look at all these guys as amazing pool players. And so the fact is, though, that when you travel around the globe and cherry pick exactly 5 of the best, pool players on the planet, that Europe's team is just more highly developed. They're young. They've been trained from a young age to a level, to a standard that Shane set. Shane set back in 2007 and 10. He said, "Hey, here's how pool should look." So all these guys, trained and set that as the standard, and they've been cast in that mold. And you've got an ocean of, literally an ocean of 22-year-olds and 20-year-olds that are all play like Shane at his peak. And how do you beat that? I mean, it's not really like a U.S. flaw. It's just kind of like, how does anybody beat that team?
Do you see a lot of guys when you're out playing or practicing, or Demi, you and some of the places you go, see guys practicing the lag? I don't.
No.
I actually do.
But isn't that a common European way to start a game? I mean, we flip coins here in the United States to start games. A lot of times we don't lag the ball, but in Europe they lag all the time, I believe.
I actually lag. I always practice. I like to practice lag during Calcuttas because you can't hit balls during a Calcutta, but you can just hit the cue ball. So I like to hit 50 to 100 lags just while the Calcutta's going on.
You know what, though? I don't know, man. I mean, this is one of those things where, so there was a guy I knew. So sometimes people get a little bit swept away, romanticized with these ideas of like there's this mythos that somebody's going to train to a level that nobody else is going to train. Like I've heard the legends about Shane practicing his break, for 8 hours a day for 5 years and all these things where it's like, no, I have a much better feel for how much Shane actually practiced this break, and it was more like he put in 3-4 hour sessions a few days before a big match one time, and then he hits it to warm up once in a while. And it's like, but it turned into this legend that he just practices this break eternally. And so it's the same thing. It's like I heard about this, with these like Japanese archers, where this whole archery school where the entire first year, the students only got to touch the bow. They never actually touched an arrow. They just held the bow. And it's like seriously, it's like maybe there's truth to that, but like the point is that people get like, oh, that's awesome. We're just going to be even more OCD than anybody else, and that's how we're going to get great. And it's like practicing the leg is turned into that. Like people that like, well, these Mosconi Cups or hills and these race to 3-1 pocket tournaments, leg, man, a lot of it comes down to the leg. You got to win that leg. It's like, yeah, but you're hitting a ball to a rail and back. Like you're a pool player. You're a professional pool player. I'm not saying the shot has no value to practice, but like, do we need to practice bouncing a ball? I mean, I don't know. I think that I really mean it. It's weird to me, and so in the end, I agree with you. Yeah. In the end, man, it's like I don't know. We lost a few legs, but I do think that for the U.S. it would help if we just didn't flip coin to the U.S. Like I do think that we should do that, but I'm not convinced that the Europeans are all over there like breaking the game down inch by inch.
No, they're not. It's just a common way to play, and they've just learned to play that way. So they've accumulated the feel for a leg. I think more so than we have over here for that.
Yeah, and as far as what Nate said, my favorite when my daughter was playing youth pool, we were at this tournament in St. Louis. She was in some big whatever, and there was her opponent was like this, and he practiced his leg like 30 or 40 times during warm up, and then they got up the leg, and she stuck the cue ball in the rail, and he was off by like a foot, and I was like quietly, that was my favorite moment of that match.
Yeah, right. No, I hear that. Yeah. Walked in cold out of the street, hadn't hit a ball and leg to the rail. She hit a couple balls warming up, but the point is just like, you hit a few balls warming up, and it's like, yeah. But anyway, I'm not trying to like pick a fight with anybody. I mean, I do think like warming up and practicing the leg a little bit is okay, but I just don't want it to get like snowballed into where it's like the Europeans have an academy where they have a 12-month syllabus, and all through March is leg month, and all they do is they leg for 8 hours a day, and they just prepare. It's like, yeah.
All right, funny. So I guess I'll take it from here. I look at this loss, and I can clearly go back and I can point to two things. So the first one is just poor play. I think the U.S. they weren't ready. They weren't playing well. I think Corey kind of said, well, I've been hitting balls a little bit, but not very much. Shane, we all know that, Shane is Shane and he wants to fish. And, that's just what he does at this time of year. And especially when he has no events to practice for. Chris Robinson's been playing a little bit of pool, but that was only in like the last month or 6 weeks or something. So you're basically only trying to get back to where you were at that point. Billy and Sky, I think everybody knows that they haven't been hitting balls nearly as much as they would have in the past. And on the contrary, we see streams all the time where the Europeans are playing, maybe short of Jason. They're playing all the time. Fedor's playing all the time. Albin's playing all the time. Joshua Fillers and Eklanti are playing all the time. They were ready, and the U.S. just wasn't. Okay, so the second part of this comes down to coaching. Now, I'm not going to go throwing JJ under the bus. This was his first opportunity at being a coach. We're going to give him longer than 1 year, but I saw a lot of really big coaching decisions. We already talked about one of them, lagging the balls. It seems like such a silly little thing, but it doesn't take that much effort just to get your guys to say, hey, this table and back, lags are going to be important. It's a race to 5. There's a pretty good chance it's going to go hill. Let's try to just get 20 minutes before and after your sessions, just lagging the balls, try to get ready for it. I did not see that. And to the contrary, I know that Alex Laley was doing that. So Alex got his guys ready for that. The U.S. didn't. It showed up on the tables. Number 2, coaching decision that I saw. You just cannot wait to have your quote-unquote best player in the Mosconi Cup, Sky Woodward, playing on day 3, and the best matchup that you have to offer, Shane and Sky, on day 3. Like, I get this, and people, there's always this internal feud between, do we want to have our best player on the hill, or do we want to have our best player leading off the round? And I'm firmly in the camp of, give your worst player an opportunity to win on the hill, as opposed to having your best player sitting on the hill wishing he had an opportunity to play. I am a firm advocate of believing that, and I've seen it way too many times where you lose a match 13-11 and your best player is sitting on the bench because he can't get to the game because the team couldn't get him there. Now, the reason why Sky and Shane did not play until day 3 completely dumbfounds me. If you don't want to put them out there right away, fine. Put them out there on day 2. Get yourself the best opportunities at points you can possibly give yourself. And, it just, by the time that Shane and Sky played together, one, they lost, but they were so demoralized that you're down 9-2 at that point. I mean,
I think it was 9-2 when they played together, right?
Yeah, it was 9-2, and then you're throwing Sky out right afterwards for a singles match. I mean, everybody knows that Sky is a feel-good player. I mean, when things are going well, Sky does really well, and when things are not going well, Sky historically has not played his best game. So get the guy out there right away on day 2. Give Shane and Sky the very first. Well, it's fans' choice, right? So after that, give Sky and Shane an opportunity, and then send Sky right back out there again. Get him out there while he's not, the match is not completely out of hand. It just dumbfounds me that we continue to make this mistake. Okay, so that's number 2. Is you just cannot save your best lineups for day 3 when the match is already out of hand, and day 4. The third thing I saw with coaching, and this is an obvious one, you didn't get the best lineup. Nobody in the world thought that Corey Deuel was a better player than about 15 different players. I mean, you could I would probably take Dennis Hatch or Mike DeShane before I took Corey Deuel at this point. I mean, Corey Deuel has shown the last 5, 6, 7 opportunities in the Mosconi Cup that he just cannot play in that event anymore. He's never had a good record there. He's always been the weak link on the team every single year, and at some point in time, you got to look inward and say, all right, that bridge has been burned. It's not going to be any different. How in the heck can we still put this guy out there and just set him up for failure every single time? Now, I know why Tyler wasn't picked. Some of you probably do as well. Maybe most of you. Who knows at this point? If you're not going to have Tyler, you're not going to put yourself out there to have the best chance to win. And if you're willing to if you're willing to build a team dynamic as opposed to the best possible collection of 5 players, and of course you can make the argument, well, if you have 5 players that all play, MVP quality and they don't jive, you're not going to have a team. And that's fine. That's true. But if you're going to put out there a bunch of replacement players who really do not even belong on that stage and it goes bad, you're going to get the flack for that. So if you're unwilling to put the best players out there for the best quote-unquote team, the team better be better than the sum of its individual parts, and this was not. So those are the 3 huge coaching decisions that I saw that, I mean, it just didn't give the U.S. an opportunity to even have close to a chance at success in this Mosconi Cup. I don't know if you guys want to, discuss
that. Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
What do you think, as long as we're talking about coaches, is when he had a question about the rack, I think it was day 3.
Yeah, I mean,
and
the score at
they
the
were
point
down
is
by
10-3,
quite a bit,
right?
and he was frustrated, and he kind of took it out on the guy who was the referee.
Yeah, I mean, at that point in time, it's 10-3.
What do you
looks
think
like
about
sour
that?
grapes. It looks like sour grapes. I mean, whether it is or whether it isn't, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there was a legit beef or not. And I actually asked Jeremy about this afterwards.
You did?
Yeah, in the post press conference, I actually asked him about this. But it looks like sour grapes. It looks like you're getting your butt kicked,
right?
And instead of playing better, you're just going to try to deflect blame onto somebody who's racking the balls. Now, I will say that the U.S. players did not break the balls as well as Europe. either there's a conspiracy saying that European players are getting better racks on purpose or on accident, whatever it is. They're getting better racks, or the European players were just prepared better and they're breaking the balls better.
Yeah.
I just don't give that a lot of credence. I mean, if you want to do that on day 2, that's fine. Do that on day 2, because then it actually looks like it's, coming from a place of concern as opposed to a place of, sour grapes.
Yeah.
All right, Demetrius.
Or do it on day 1, second game, just for the sake of psyche principles.
Yeah, maybe.
It's hard, I mean, I don't disagree. When it comes to coaching, you talked about preparation, roster, and lineup, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah.
And that's all true. We know that COVID made things difficult on all of those things. I mean, COVID made it difficult to prepare. COVID made it difficult to get the right team because, I mean, gosh, what a bad role that Justin Bergman was swapped out for Corey Deuel. I mean, that's losing Bergman was not Jeremy's call, and then at the same time, we don't know how many players he reached out to before he settled for Deuel. I don't anyway. I mean, and the heck of it is that the U.S. just doesn't have a big roster of players that can play with filler and all these guys. So it's like, so then the lineup, I concur with that. I've seen this too, where the funny part about saving your bottom player for the hill is that
Demetrius,
if it goes hill,
let me jump in about the roster, because this is an important thing for this. Not only did Justin miss the lineup, Billy Thorpe was almost missing it too. Most players don't know. Most people don't know this. Billy Thorpe did not test negative until the night before he left. Now, and this is why I want to jump in here for this, because there was no players on Europe that tested positive. None. So either Alex Lely is more strict with his players, JJ's less strict with his players, or there's just, some sort of, and of course the numbers in the US are way higher than they are in Europe. Don't get me wrong there. I'm not trying to say that it's apples to apples on this argument, but at some point in time when you're less than a month out and you know that this disease can sometimes last, 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, you got to be a little bit more strict with your players and say, hey, I know you guys want to go to this tournament in Texas, and it's a great tournament for you, but, we're this long away, and it's possible that you could test positive this long out. At some point in time, their adults are going to do what they want to do, but it's a bad look when JJ and Joey are both at that event and get tested positive out of being at that event. It's just a bad look, right? You got to have some sort of strict kind of shutdown of your players if you want them to be available.
No, that's true, and it's. I mean, I don't want to go down further. There's such a wide variety and hot opinions about how to handle the situation with COVID that and the problem is that with the Mosconi Cup. I mean, I wish that the money in the Mosconi Cup justified the amount. I mean, what we'd love to see is a roster of 20 players whittling down to 5, or with 2 backups over the course of the year, and countless preparations every month, and year-round strategy and playing and breaking down tape, and then a month of hard work and all the. I mean, but I remember doing the when was it Johan that was doing those the trainings, boot camps and preparation, and everybody was like, man, at the end of it all, it's like they're fighting over 10-20 grand, and it's like it's just not, there's not enough, and I'm not saying it's a small event and it's chump change. I'm just saying that, you can only do so much. In the end, it's one event, and for the players, they can only put in so much, and shutting down for a month in preparation might not be something that they all can do. And so it's a challenging thing. But what I wanted to say about the third point, which was the actual roster itself, and we were talking about the depth. I was saying about the lineup. The lineup thing where you wanted to leave your weaker players to play on the hill. I really like that, because here's the thing. Our weaker players on all these guys are still professionals. And with the adrenaline of the hill, and it's, they can all rise. Any one of them can choke. Shane can choke, and Chris Robinson can rise up and play a perfect set. And there's so much adrenaline on the hill. I really like that strategy. Make sure you get your top players played, and then give everybody's very live. If it goes to a hill situation, they're all very capable of rising to the challenge anyway. So I agree with that. Probably the most of all the 3 things you mentioned. I think that the lineup is really critical. I don't know. You've had experience trying to herd pool players, and we've talked about it being like herding cats. I don't know what, between COVID affecting the team directly, taking Bergman out, almost taking Billy out, and making it difficult to get physical preparation. It was a really tough spot Jeremy went into, and so then here's my question then. Suppose we had the best coach. Suppose we had Johan or a team of whoever we want in there. Could you coach Team USA? How do you beat like is this even a winnable task? How do you beat a team with Filler, Shaw, Ocean? I mean, how do you do it? Like if you're the coach for the Mosconi Cup, and that you never know, that could happen. Like if you're the coach for the Mosconi Cup, how do you take US players and beat that European team? Because I don't think you can. I just don't think you can.
I could get a call any day. Sure.
No, I agree with that, and I think, and that's at the beginning of what I said about the coaching part. I said I give Jeremy Jones a pass, but I can't give him a pass and not point out the things that I thought he did wrong. So I'm not trying to
fair enough.
I'm not trying to attack Jeremy Jones and say he's like the worst, he's a worthless coach or anything like that, because I don't even believe that. I think that he could be a very good coach, but I think he allows his relationship with these players to get in the way of making the best decision for the players. And I mean that by, just looking at them and saying, hey, I know you guys want to go to the Texas Open. It's too close. I can't have you guys there. I need you guys available for London. And it turns out, ironically, that Justin was the only person that wasn't at the Texas Open, and he was the person that did get COVID, but that means that he did something else, And I think Jeremy Jones has the ability and the clout, if he wanted to go to these players and say, hey, I know you want to play in these events, but don't risk any of that and basically be down for 2 weeks or a week or whatever from this sickness. If anything, I bet he celebrated Thanksgiving. I mean, we can't. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Come on. Yeah. So
I did. Notice Corey Duel actually physically looked like he wasn't feeling very well. Like he had a head cold, I believe. He was sniffling. He was kind of hacking a little bit. He just didn't look healthy to me.
I didn't notice.
Well, maybe Jeremy should have employed some chemical warfare. Maybe we should have had somebody. A U.S. player that did have COVID, and we should have slipped them over to Europe and had them play a Euro Tour event. And maybe we could have wiped out their team. Maybe we could have beat them to the punch.
As a person who has COVID right now, let's not even go there. All right.
No, we're not wishing that on anybody, Nate. No.
Yeah, let's move on from that.
But that certainly did make a difference this year in our team.
Well,
the fact that we're in a pandemic.
What we're seeing
more so than the European team.
What we're seeing, and to address your question, can we even beat a team that has Fedor, Joshua, Albin, Jason? Can we even beat a team like that? And I guess
that'd be tough.
I would say this: I don't know that we can beat a team like that is trained and disciplined. Now, I got a little bit of flack from the way that I talk about Marcus Shamat on the last podcast. And all I'm saying is pretty much everything that I said would happen as far as the discipline that Alex Laley is going to incorporate. We saw that from the players, and we didn't see that when Marcus Shamat was there. So, I mean, I maybe I could have been a little bit more respectful to Marcus, but everything that I said, I stand behind because I think it's true. He was not really a coach. He was more of a he was more of a partier there, just to have fun with his players and get the fans
involved. It's like being a parent. Do you have discipline or not?
Well,
are you going to be their friend or are you going to be their parent?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Alex Laley brings a sense of seriousness. He brings a sense of professionalism, and he brings a level of discipline that just wasn't there in the past. And now, if you have that with that lineup of players, I don't see how the U.S. this could end up turning into a bit of a beatdown for a couple of years, because that Alex is going to get his players ready. You know that they're going to be prepared. You know that they're going to be put in the best situation from a coaching perspective to win, meaning the lineups are going to be right. They're going to be at the right time. They're going to be the right players against the right player, you know that every decision that's going to be made is going to be made in a good kind of way. You're not going to be getting any points, free points, because an error was made on coaching. And I think that was the case in the U.S. Putting Corey Deuel out there for a singles match on day 2 I'm sorry, it's just idiotic. I mean, the dude cannot win a match, especially a singles match. Put him out there on day 3, push him back as far as you could possibly push him every single time to give yourself the success. And maybe, who knows, maybe you put him right behind a bunch of players that, they win 2 straight points or something like that, and Europe starts feeling it a little bit, and maybe he gets a little bit of a boost from that. But regardless, Alex Lely is going to set all of those players up to have success. I don't know that you can have that lineup with that level of preparation and the U.S. really have a chance unless everything is perfect. What do you guys think?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I saw more mistakes with pocketing balls from the American team on all 3 days. Both teams on the first day, but much more so on day 2 and day 3. You know?
Yeah, it's a really tough one. I think that I think that with the right roster, the right lineups, and the right coaching, that it can be live for the U.S. to. The U.S. can be live. I think that a lot of things have to go the U.S.'s way. They have to get they have to get a jump. They have to win, on day 1. They have to have, they have to have positive energy and some good things kind of break their way. And then it's possible. But because it's in the end, they're not drawing dead, right? It's not impossible that they can win this format. But even with the trifecta, even with everything as good as it can be, I still think that the U.S. is a serious underdog, even on its best day. So then I don't know if we want to have, I don't know if we want to talk about, like, there's a question that I know that a lot of people have, which is, what can be done? Is there anything that can be done to make future Mosconi Cups more competitive? What is there anything the U.S. can do in terms of how, like, what has to change in U.S. pool, or what has to change in the Mosconi Cup, or do we need to open it up to, include, the North Pole, Santa Claus or reindeer? I mean, what do we have to do? Do we want to talk about that? Because I know that seems like it's a burning conversation. What are your thoughts, Nate?
Well, I think we should go the same way golf goes. And if you're a player that's a great player, but you don't play, you don't go compete in tournaments, and this year was an exception, of course, but going down the road, then you just don't have a Fargo rate, and we're not just going to base, what you do in a Fargo rate. Where did you come in? What places in all these tournaments? And give people an award number for what place they came in a tournament, rather than a rating number on how you would do against another
system.
Player.
They were supposed to do a ranking system this year, but obviously COVID threw everything up for a loop.
Yeah,
and
I think that would help.
One player did get onto the team from qualifying, and that was Justin Bergman. And it was the same way for the Europe, and it was Fedor. So in the future, there will be more of those. It'll be a ranking system as opposed to just the pure politics of picking a team. All right. So,
sure. You earn your way onto the team.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, during the course of the year. And then the player that plays more tournaments excels better in most of the tournaments. There you go. Now you might have 7 or 8 players to pick from.
Yeah. So I guess because of the American exceptionalism in me, I don't like the idea of opening it up to North America. And for a couple of reasons, I guess I don't. Who are we really going to get? I mean, obviously, yes, Alex is the biggest. Alex is the biggest obvious person there, and that would, if you throw Alex on this team, and maybe you have Justin Bergman on there too, that's a team that can compete, I think. But there are a lot of really clashing personalities on that team, right? Or there at least is the potential for it, which is going to require more coaching. Now, we've seen that there's a lineup that can beat Europe. So I think it's less about, I personally think it's less about finding the right 5 players, and it's more about taking the 5 players that we already know can work, or, some combination of 5 that we know can work, and giving them the best opportunity to be prepared and to succeed when you actually are there. And I think that's coaching. And we saw that it's possible with Johan. Johan actually did this, and he made it easy. Now, why can't, or in the 1 year worth of resume that Jeremy Jones has, why couldn't he do it? I think Jeremy has got to stop being these players' friends first and their coach second, and be their coach first and their friends second. It's hard to do because he's been playing with these players for years and years and years and years, of course. But at the end of the day, I mean, Jeremy Jones has got to start making decisions that are best for the team and not best for the players. And I think that that's all it takes. Johan showed that you can do that and make it work. Johan won 2 out of 3 years when he was there. And the only year he lost was the first one where he had just gotten there. It's hard to instill a level of seriousness and dedication that is required to play on a Johan team in 1 year.
What was the when the U.S. won last year? What was the European team again? Remind me, because I just have this feeling that the European team has never ever been as strong as it was this year. I don't think this team's beatable. That's my opinion. I don't think this team's beatable. No, I'm serious. And I think that in the end, I think that last year, I just don't remember the team being Albin Ocean, Clenty Kachi, Shaw, Filler, and Gorse. I don't remember that team being there last year.
The team last year was Eklanti Kachi, Jason Shaw, Joshua
They needed
Filler,
to win 5-0 on day one is what they needed.
Okay, hang on, Rob. Just read us the roster from last year.
The roster last year was Niels Fine, Joshua Filler, Jason Shaw, Alexander Kazakis, and Eklanti Kachi.
So, and I think, was that Kachi's first year or second year?
Second. He played the year before. The year before was a better team, but the U.S. beat him by more. The team before was Eklanti, in 2018 would have been Eklanti Kachi, Alexander Kazakis, Jason Shaw, Albin Ocean, and Niels Fine. But that
interesting.
Was Niels Fine who was a little bit closer.
So Niels, Kazakis, and so it was Niels, Kazakis, and Kachi's first 2 years. So now we got Kachi on year 3, and we've traded Niels and Kazakis for Gorst and Filler. I don't know, man. Okay. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. That team is. I'm not saying they're unbeatable, but I don't think Johan beats that team. That's my opinion. I think our wins had more to do with Europe than they had to do with Johan in the U.S. That's my opinion. And so I think that if we want this to be an interesting event, that they've got to have Europe stick to kind of like when they make the caps on the Team Fargo. It's like you got to be like, hey, 2 world champion max. You want Fedor and Filler, then bring out Chris Melling and Kazakis and Ruslan Chinakover. Do something. We got to step down a grade on some of these players, because we can't be 5 deep with Josh Filler. It just doesn't work. And that's my opinion. And I don't think there's a coach that could beat that. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, at the end,
that's pretty much what we saw.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, like Rob said earlier, you're going to have to qualify on Team Europe. That's always been the case, unless there's a once in 100 years pandemic where you can actually basically just pick your entire team with 4 wild cards, and you're getting the world 9-ball champion as your set player. I mean, that's why Kazakis has been on the team the last few years. He's qualified. And I'm a huge Alex fan. Everybody knows this who listens to the podcast. I'm a huge Alex fan. But he probably doesn't belong there with his play, at least his resume in the 2 years he did play. I mean, he just doesn't quite play at that level yet. But if he qualifies,
I got a question for you guys, too, when you're done here with this little thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I have to say about it, so...
It's either U.S. getting better or Europe getting worse, and and we could have a long conversation about the state of pool in the U.S. and what we have to do to. I mean, but for us to breed, players to where we have a 10 deep roster of competitive international players, a lot would have to change in the U.S. for that to be a possibility, especially as half of our players age out, and we've got, so it's really challenging. And But the easiest way to fix this, yeah, and I agree, we shouldn't go to North America. I just think that it would help to have, and yeah, I mean, Kazakis, Chris Melling, these guys are great players, but so are Sky and Billy and all the, Chris Robinson. So therefore, in the end, it would just be nice to see a little bit more range on their side, just so that there was the possibility of a few chokes, unforced errors, gifts back, just a couple things that would just be a little bit, make it a really, really close match. Because in the end, I would have to say that their stacked team is almost unbeatable. That's not a knock on the U.S. That's just a fact. Is that they're just some of the, the absolute best players in the world. If you had to pick the top 8 players in the world, 5 of them are probably on that team. And so, is that really good exhibition? Is that really good? Is that really how we want to do this? Or do we want to make it a really tough match and see who can, then we can make it, because if we make it a tough match to where both teams say we're going to pick players that are even in ability, and then we're going to make it a battle of preparation, coaching, and execution, to me that's more interesting. And this isn't about which country's better. It's just about, let's make it a really good match, and let's have it be a good fight. So, okay.
That's a good idea.
I would say
that's kind of like Mike Miller's hand-picked team tournaments up in Blue Superior, where you got 4 players on each team, and each 4 players a different level.
Well, no,
pretty
not
similar
like
to that.
No, not like that. I'm sorry, that's a terrible idea. We want to see the best of the best on both continents, right?
That's basically what.
Yeah, but we don't want to see that. No, we want to see the best of the best.
You have 2 800s, 2 780s, 2 740s.
No, that
or whatever, one or something like that.
That doesn't work. It's got to be the best of the best, or you're going to lose the authenticity of it, of course. But
that is what it's going to be. But I hear Demi. I hear that thought.
Yeah,
competitively,
it's got to be the best of the best.
That's not a bad idea. Here's my question now for you guys. My other question is equipment. Now, I talked about the speed of the cloth and stuff. I want to talk about the pockets a little bit. They did say what size the pockets were, which were small pockets. But with that coupled with the brand new cloth, it was definitely pretty obvious that at the right speed, you could hit way out that rail and still pocket that ball.
Yeah,
I saw that numerous times, especially a couple games that the Europeans on the second day made balls that were hit 4 to 6 inches up the rail, and they went in because they were shot at. Allison Fisher said on the air that was the pocket speed, and I said, sure, that's fine, but hey, come on, that shouldn't be happening. And where it was really noticeable was when Shane slopped in that combination 9-ball. He banked the 2-ball one rail in the corner, hit it bad. That ball came into the face of the 9-ball. 9-ball didn't come off the rail. It just came off the rail like 1/8 of an inch and went right down the table from the second time, and it went in the corner.
Yeah, so what's your question out of this?
Well, the deal is if you're going to have small pockets, and that was mentioned at the beginning, the 2 balls barely fit into this pocket. But then you're going to have the cloth that neutralizes the size of that pocket. That, to me, doesn't make any sense. But, of course, the third day it was a little different.
Well, yeah, but it's always going to get worn in, right? But
it did get worn in the third day. You saw a lot more table runs the third day.
Yeah, everybody plays on the same equipment. They all know how to play on new slidey cloth. They know that if you're cutting a ball down the rail, you need to hit the rail anywhere from 2 to 4 inches, and it's going to comfortably slide into the pocket. Everybody knows that. I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, I just didn't like that. I think that shouldn't be available to these people at this level. Being able to hit a ball up the rail that far and still make it. There's tables around here we play on, Nate, that you cannot do that. You can't even touch that rail going in, or you won't make it. So those are more the other way. But I was not a fan of, especially Fedor on the, I believe it was the second day. I swear to God, he missed 4 shots that went in.
Well, they won those games. You got to remember, Rob, that he's not shooting the ball to that spot because he's hitting it bad. He's hitting it there because he knows it'll go, right? He's not hitting it there on accident. If the table didn't make it available, he would probably still make all those shots. He would just hit the center of the pocket.
Well, I'm not so sure about that because every time that happened, there was a little flaw in his technique at the same time. A little head pop, a little stroke a little bit shorter, a little lack of devotion to execution. That's what I saw. But the ball still went in the hole. I saw a player miss a shot that went.
I'll tell you what, Rob. I you know what? In the end, I mean, it's an exhibition. I kind of okay. So I agree with both of you. Like, listen. I personally would rather see more difficult tables. I'd rather see more gritty pool. But in the end, I would say that they are both playing at the same table. And really, if you're rooting for U.S., you want those pockets as big as possible because you want it to make those games shorter. You want to make the sets shorter. You want to make there be less pool between the flip or the leg. I should say the leg and the finish line. So it's probably the U.S.'s best chance is if the tables play pretty soft. And remember, man, this is like, half the players of the U.S. play on bar tables nowadays, and so at least they're still playing on 9-foot tables. I agree, though. I'd personally prefer to see more difficult equipment, but in the end, this is always going to be an exhibition, and they want to see lots of explosive dynamic play. So they want the conditions to be fair, but a little on the soft side.
Right.
Like John Schmidt's 626. You know what I mean? They want the balls to just kind of go in.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole thing to me is unbelievable.
Yeah. The only thing I don't care for, and I forget, was it Rob or Nate? I forget who mentioned it, but I think it might have been Rob. I didn't like the ball colors either. I think to me, what this stinks of is a money grab, where, the 1 year it's this black 9 ball, or 1 year it's a purple 5 ball. It's like, to me, it's like they keep changing the balls, and it's like they keep wanting to sell new sets of balls. So it's like, I like to use the same balls on my home table that I'm going to use in competition, but I'm not going to spend $200 a year on a new set of balls and have them keep it. Well, this time we're going to make this color that, and this time we're going to do this and that. And I'm like, okay, so I'll buy this new set. Here's the problem. From a marketing standpoint, it's really, really tough. Billiard balls last 40, 50 years. If you buy a nice pro set of billiard balls, you're out of the market for decades. And it's like that they just don't have, it's a small enough demographic selling pool balls. And in the end, I feel like, this is just how I feel. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they're trying to keep, they got a bunch of people sitting around a boardroom trying to figure out how to get their, Q3 sales up. And they're like, well, let's make a new set of balls with, new and improved and different colors and different sparkles. And then we'll convince and then we'll have the pros. We'll sponsor some pro tournaments and play with those. Then everybody will want to get these balls. And then we can set up a 7th set of balls. And it's like, I find that really distasteful. I guess it's capitalism. I guess that's just the way businesses work. And I appreciate that they have to stay in business. But to me, I get to vote with my wallet. I am not buying a new set of balls. And I find it really, really obnoxious. And I really find it hard to get behind that and support that.
Allison Fisher even noticed she made a couple wrong calls at what the next ball was going to be even because of the color of the ball. So when that happens, when somebody of her caliber starts, thinking the 5 balls is the 4 ball or whatever.
I don't know.
It's just gross, man. It's like it's just gross. It's like I don't want to pay an annual $200 membership to Aramis. It's like it's just to me. To me, there's like business. It would almost be like making something like, we know that like what Apple makes their iPhones designed to, it's like, it would be like, if a car manufacturer built a car designed to seriously like, how are we going to sabotage this car so it starts to break down purposefully when it hits 80,000 miles so we can get them back in. It's just, come on.
How about a set of balls that won't skid no matter what you do?
Yeah, I just, there's got to be, in my opinion, listen, my opinion is this, and it's idealistic, and I understand it's idealistic, but here's my belief. If you're in business, if you're in sales, if you're trying to sell a product, then you have to be able to turn out the best product possible and give as much value and you have to look out for your clients and your customers to the highest degree possible. And if you can't do that and succeed, then you need to change something in your business, but you can't sacrifice your integrity of putting your customers first. You can't do it, man, because it just doesn't. If you can't if you can't be high integrity and customers first and succeed, then you shouldn't be in that business. That's my opinion. You should downsize and just make some balls then for pool halls, and somehow you should lower your scale of your operation, and instead of trying to get like so big. I mean, find the market that exists and do a good job servicing it, but don't try to like expand profits and expand your market beyond what's there to the point where you have to kind of manipulate the buyers. It just kind of it doesn't sit well with me.
This old man get off my lawn stuff is nauseating. The Aramith Blacks are so cool. I have a set of them. I had to get a set of them. They're awesome.
I like the 9-ball. It's just the other balls that they keep changing.
Well, they changed it 2 years ago.
Changing colors. Every tournament I turn on,
yeah, Nate,
colors.
When you have 10 sets of pool balls and you're $5,000 in, it's like, come on now. It's like at some point, okay, well, I've said what I need to say. Everybody, you can definitely, if you think that they have a high integrity business model, then you can do it how you want to do it. But
you want to see me get ornery? Let's just talk about jump cues for an hour.
No, shut up, Rob. All I'm saying is how many new sets of balls has Aramith came out with in the last 20 years? Probably 3. Who cares? It's fun. It's marketing, right? If the people want to have it, they'll get it. And if they don't want to have it, they don't have to. They're not forcing you to buy a set of balls. All right.
Yeah.
We can move on. This isn't a discussion worth having. But I think that pretty much wraps up the Mosconi Cup.
Yeah, because there's the Aramith Crown Standard, there's the Aramith Super Tournament, there's the Aramith Premium, there's the Super Aramith Premium Pro Ball, there's the Aramith Tournament Black, there's the Aramith. I mean, this goes on and on. The Aramith Premium Belgium. Anyway. Okay, you're right.
Yep, I know.
Just keep the colors the same.
All I'm saying is
the TV Pro Cup.
Demetrius, at the end of the day, it's money in pool. You might not like it, and you might think it's a gimmick, and that may be true. That they don't have to be mutually exclusive, but it's money into the game. Aramith gives a lot of money back to this game. They sponsor a lot of different things. They help out a lot of different players. The more money that they have by doing all these marketing gimmicks, as you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's money circulating throughout the sport. Golf does the same thing. They have a new driver that comes out every single year. Some companies have 2 drivers that come out every single year, and people buy it. You don't have to buy it, but if you want to buy it, you can do it, and that builds the game. So it might be a marketing gimmick, but it also builds the game, and the players who want to have it, and the people who want to have it are going to get it, and the people who don't have to have it. At the end of the day, more money circulating throughout the game is not a bad thing.
You're right, and so you're absolutely right. And there's people that can be supportive of that and excited about that, and there's people that can be put off by that. And I'm just saying, it's I get to have a voice and I get to vote with my wallet. I'm put off by that. I don't care for it. I'm not going to participate. You're right. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to go torch the Aramith production company. I'm not boycotting events that have Aramith balls. I'm not talking about that. This is a podcast and I'm expressing my opinion. I don't care for that. I don't think that's high integrity.
And that's fine. Okay, we can move on. I think that pretty much wraps up the Mosconi Cup. I think the U.S. is in a tough spot for the coming years. The way to fix it, in my eyes, is to probably get a tighter run ship of the players and the preparation for it.
Who do you guys think was the strongest European player to play?
Well, Jason Shaw. I mean, I don't think you can argue that.
How about you, Demi?
Boy, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. I think that the Shaw, I think the match he played with Shane on day 2 to set up the 5-0. I think that was a pretty pivotal match. I think Shaw played pretty well all the way through. He got a little fortunate that match. Some things had to go wrong for Shane, and Shane played well. But I agree. Shaw might have been MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he scored 6 points by himself.
Yeah, I'm on board with that too.
I
pretty. Think it was close. I mean, they all played really good, but Shaw was just edged them out a little.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to have a discussion topic, or do we want to just move on for the day? Why don't we just move on for the day? We have a couple listener questions that we could cover, but it's COVID and I'm beat up and I want to go lay in bed for a while, so we can wrap. This
Sounds
up.
Good.
We want to wrap this up.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, let me just close this out with a couple of comments
Okay.
About things that happen to people. And these are just sayings. Here's one. It says, when one door closes and another door opens, you've heard that comment?
Yep.
You're probably in prison.
Well.
Okay, now you haven't heard that one, right? And,
very nice.
Yeah, and to me, drinking responsibly means don't spill anything.
I had my first drink last night for the first time in a week and 2 days.
Yeah, and then there's, when people like me say the other day, I really could be referring to any time between yesterday and like 15 years ago.
Right. Yeah, like 2000. Yeah. Makes sense.
That's a true thing.
That's I'll tell you, George Carlin had some good ones. He was always talking about how, every time somebody says for the rest of, for all my life, they mean something different. But who was it? And the other guy I really liked was like Stephen Wright. He had some really good one-liners. When people, I forget, like when people say, have you lived here all your life? I always say, not yet. He had these really good, anyway, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, sounds good to me, guys. Well, Nate, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry things have been a little rough. Nothing worse, man. Nothing worse than being holed up in bed and just fighting through time. So I'll shout out to all the guys out there that are listening to this with COVID. Get better soon.
Yeah, there's been a lot of pool players lately with it.
Yeah, Johnny Archer, unfortunately.
Quite a few coming down now. Even in Wisconsin here, there's a handful that I know that happened, including Nate and now Alicia.
Yep. Well, we'll give a shout out to Johnny. Get well soon, Johnny. And, of course, we can wrap it up there. Demetrius, Rob, thanks for joining me again.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
Take care, yeah. See you, Demi.
Thanks for coming to my party. Now that we're all out to broke, it's time to go home.
Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. If you've liked what you've heard and you want to contribute to the future content that will be made, consider joining the podcast's Patreon at www.patreon.com/QItUp. Becoming a Patreon of the podcast will help to create all of the future content that the podcast will have. Special shout out to Dave Peters, Aaron Taylor, Pete Silsby, Morgan Lupton, Ben Young, Robert Miller, Andy Morse, and Bill Pelham for your generous contributions to the podcast's Patreon. If you ever need any more information on what the Patreon system is, or how you can contribute outside of the Patreon, please reach out to the podcast or Nate himself. If you would like to contribute to the podcast for free, consider sharing any podcasts or the podcast page on Facebook itself. Also, leaving a review and a rating if you listen through iTunes. It helps others find the podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode of the Q It Up podcast.